So let's talk basic tee shots and how to improve your tee shots without particularly having to improve your golf swing. So many free, low-hanging fruit fixes golfers can make with their tee shots. Let's show you what I mean. So when it comes to the driver, I tend to see a lot of setup mistakes, really cheap mistakes that amateurs repeatedly make that make getting that ball in play, hitting a few more fairways, keeping it out of trouble, keeping the ball just in the boundaries of the course hard over 18 holes for golfers. So let's look at some of these basic setup things that could really help you get a little bit more consistency when it comes to your driver. Now let's start with the grip. The way you hold this club is going to have to make you make a lot of different moves as you swing it around your body to try and coordinate the club face. If your grip moves away from the standard, the more neutral holds. So ideas like seeing 2 to 3 knuckles on your lead hand, thumb just down right of center of the grip. Nice neutral through the middle of your palm holds. Right hand grip where this V between thumb and first finger starts coming up towards your right shoulder. These neutral patterns in your grip will then lead to some more neutral movements with your swing. What's really common with people with the driver is when they start having extreme grips, so big twists, big turns, what we then start to see is some very big kind of strange impact positions, or we see big pull-offs of the ball, we see different turns on the way down, we see slides, jumps, early extensions where your body really wants to rear at the ball as it comes down into impact. Basically what you see is extreme movements to manage extreme grips. Now if you've got an extreme grip and you find that you hit lots of shots quite well, so iron play, clubs with loft, that kind of stuff, it works quite well, but then you get down to your driver, the club with least loft, the one that's the hardest to hit, and there's some holes that start to show. This is now where you might want to think about having a more neutral hold, because the problem you'll have with the driver is if you have some extreme patterns, when you push it to its limit, so in the lowest lofted club, what will happen is it will push your technique too far. So working towards a grip that's functional within your movement. Now I'm not saying extreme grips can't work for lots of golfers, they can. There's some world-class golfers who do use extreme grips, but they have the matchups to work and it works throughout their bag. And obviously they're world-class golfers. Sometimes for amateurs, dining out on the fact that, oh, but so great player uses this grip is a free cop-out. They're using that grip because they're a lot better than us and they can manage it. Sometimes just making the hardest club in your bag the simplest to hit might pay dividends over the space of a season when it comes to trying to keep the ball in play. Let's talk ball position and aim next. So where you place the ball in your stance. So for me, I'm going to place it somewhere between the big toe on my lead foot to an inch inside my left heel. For me, that's what I call my playing ground. So I'm going to hit shots from anywhere within that little area to try and manipulate things like angle of attack, so hitting it up or down a bit more for different flights, a bit more specialized. And then also it's the more I push it forward, I'm going to hit it later in the path, so I might hit a little fade, and the more I push it towards the back side of that little playing field, the more I might push my path a little bit more to the right. So I'm using it the controlled club path as well. Now where we see amateurs make big mistakes, similar to the grip, is when you see extreme ball positions, they're often trying to balance some other ideas. Let's show you what I mean. So the most common one I see, and let me know in the comments down below if this is you, is ball way outside of lead foot. So we see ball position getting extreme forwards. This is very common with people who tend to cut the ball a lot off to the right. What they're trying to do is catch that ball later on their part of their swing, so they get the face pointing a bit left to start it left and curve it back. Now if you hit the ball in play all the time with this ball position, don't change it. Use it, play it. But if you wonder why you struggle to maybe calm down the amount of cut you have, or why it looks so different to other golfers, you're managing other issues in your action. The starting point for golfers, when I used to get golfers come for lessons with these kind of ball positions, is I would say if you want to reduce your cut, that ball position is a starting point. You're using a very encouraging to slicing ball position. Why don't we use one that's a little bit more neutral? The other thing ball position leads to as well is where I position that ball in relationship to my feet also has a bearing to where it is in resembling my body in how it relates to my body, which we'll come to further down the video. But the further forward I have that ball, tends to have my shoulders now way open. I'm a long way behind the ball. This can, believe it or not, lead to hitting down and left swings more than actually hitting up, even though you're so far behind it. Your basic rules of thumb for your setup, if you like, with your driver, so just some good benchmarks to see if you're anywhere near these, is with the ball position you use, anywhere between lead big toe to just inside that left heel, that lead heel, does that position your left ear just slightly behind the ball? Hopefully it does. Obviously, if I've got the ball a long way back and now I'm setting up more like a kind of punch iron shot, which we do see amateurs play, I can see now my left ear is like way ahead of the ball here. Next thing is, does your ball position allow you, without being too twisted, to get your shoulders somewhere in relationship to the line of your feet and your hips and your knees? Again, if that ball is way forwards, I have to lean my shoulders a lot to get them in line with my feet line, if you like, and this makes me feel like I'm going to literally whack the ball or the ground back here. So what happens now is I have to lean forward to it. I have to get this left shoulder quite low and down, buried into the left here, to marry this really far forward ball position. Getting these matchups in a bit of a pickle at the beginning, similar to the grip ideas, the more extreme they are, it might just lead to a few more extreme golf shots. And then the last thing with ball position is it relates really to your aim. I use my ball position line to actually aim. So what I mean by that is my ball position line, let's pretend it's this club here, I'm aiming off a right angle off this line. So it's this ball position line that I set up first. I come in with the club, I put the club down behind the ball, point it where I want the ball to start, and this is a straight line I'm drawing with the shaft of the club towards my body, where I set my ball position line up, and then my feet are at a right angle to that. I see a big mistake where people aim, where they think they want to hit it, they look up, they think, oh, I'm not really aimed far enough left now, and what they do is they simply move their feet around, but they don't move the club, and now we've got a bit of a contradiction between the face and your feet, and we start seeing even bigger cuts. These kind of players say things like, when I aim left, I tend to cut it even more. They're often the reasons, because they're not marrying ball position up to where you're aiming. You've got to make sure that your ball position line is somewhere in the realms of a right angle to the line you want that ball to start with, to be somewhere neutral. Now you can move around those ideas if you're a good driver of the ball and you heavy shape it right to left or left to right, and there might be some slight contradictions in there. But as a rule of thumb, use your ball position line to help you aim, get them all synced up. You'll find that your aiming improves just by having a more sensible ball position. So process for me, I'm going to aim the face, set my grip. As I set my grip, I'm setting my ball position and my aim, so it's all syncing together. And once that's set, my body's in place, which we're going to come to next, and I'm ready to pull the trigger. Take that all day long. Let's talk about body tilts, how to position your body. This is a common issue that I see with golfers. Now, the way you tilt, twist and turn your body, even in the setup, can have massive influences over how you control the face, how you, for instance, turn your body segments, so your lower half to your upper half getting in a bit of a mess compared to trying to turn behind the ball, these kind of ideas. And what you're going to notice with all these things is the ideas of the term matchups that you'll hear a lot in golf coaching at the minute. You can see how each one of these ideas all influence each other. This really explains the ideas of matchups when you dig into people's driver and iron setups and the reasons they get into the funky positions they get into. So good practices with your body. So I want to hit with a relatively neutral path, and I want to hit on a certain angle of attack. So I don't want to be particularly too down or particularly too up. I want to be somewhere neutral to slightly up. So say 2 to 4 degrees up is my goal, but that'll be different for different golfers. But what I don't want to see is things like 8 down with the driver, which I see with amateur golfers. Common issue, again, relates to that ball position, is when people start getting their shoulders forward. There's an exaggeration, but by having that ball way forward in that setup, like we just talked about, this encourages the wrong kind of tilts and leans in your setup, which then encourages these sway hips and reverses as they come in to hit the ball. Sway hips and massive turns out of it. Big old slice shot. So good practice. Think about how your hands are attaching to this club. You've got your right hand or your trail hand, so for me my right, below my lead, which is my left hand. This in turn naturally puts this little bit of tilt in my upper body. It also just shoves my hips a fraction forwards. What it also does is it makes it easy for me now to align my shoulders more towards the direction I want that ball to start to, even slightly to the right. Natural issues I see golfers do when they set up, even with good ball positions, is putting their hand on almost from above the club down onto it, which leads to what we call, say, open shoulders, shoulders to the right, and also really leaning forwards with your upper body. We want a nice tilt this way with your upper body. We want to get your ear behind the ball. We want your upper body behind the ball. I want a backswing where we're going to turn behind the ball and then drive up from behind it to try and get some launch on that golf ball. We can't do that so easily from these kind of positions. It encourages these down and to the left, horrible big slicey shots and poor strikes. So what I like to do with students is use your trail hand and how it connects to the club to help you position your body in a more constructive way. So when you get your right hand onto the club ready to hit the ball, don't be afraid to let it just come off last. So once I've set, I've just peeled my trail hand off. So for me, my right hand, put it by my right thigh. And now what I'm going to do is just introduce it from below the club up onto the club. And what you're going to notice is that my hips just slightly tilt forwards, also kind of go towards the target. Shoulders just slightly tilt back. I start getting these natural tilts in there rather than if you put your hand on from here. So see how it's above my lead hand. People tend to go that way with it. Much easier if you take it from below. You can even take it to extremes. Put it down by your right knee and position it up onto the club. You'll feel the tilts that puts into your body. Then in turn, you'll feel how that makes it much easier for you to position your shoulders in a stronger position to maybe move that path more out towards the target. Time and time again, we see amateurs hitting very much out to in with the driver, really slicing across it. So common that it comes from some of these aspects in the setup that encourage that movement from that ball position, which then in turn encourages those poor tilts in your body. So we want shoulders, hips, relatively neutral to your foot line, and we definitely want to see a little bit of tilt in your body. Once you've got these things in place, you're ready to pull the trigger. Let's give you some bonus tips just to finish, things that you can do before even thinking about your golf swing. Try not to overvalue fairway. So on this hole, I'm valuing the ball in play. There's a hole left that I can hit onto. There's trees, but I can still get to the green from the trees, at worst make 5. It's the out of bounds that really worries me. So not overvaluing trying to hit that fairway. The better side into the green on this hole is arguably a bit from the right, but I am absolutely never going to risk that because it's just bringing in the out of bounds. So don't overvalue fairway. Don't be afraid to aim away from trouble, even if that means aiming at other fairways, trees on the left, those kind of ideas. Have a pre-shot routine. Very easy to get flustered on the golf course, hit a bad shot, lose your head, those kind of ideas. Going through the routine, going through the same process each time might just keep you focused over 18 holes. It's a long time out there to concentrate. And then have some clear targets. You know, I'm picking literally a tree. I'm not picking just the left side. I have an idea the left side's healthier than the right, but then I pick a very precise target in that side of the fairway. Try to get into the routine of having a precise target. A, it will allow you to focus hopefully your aims and everything we've talked about, body positions, onto that target, but B, it will give you a better point of reference of how off target you're hitting the ball and give you a better chance of improving those things when you then go away to practice. And then mindset. Don't be afraid to stand up there and give the driver a hit. Anyone trying to just improve a little bit of distance is never going to do any harm. Get your setup set up in a position that allows you to stand there and give it a good whack. For me, that means having a slightly wider stance than I would generally want to have. I get a little bit used to a narrow stance. But if I want to just add a little bit of speed, having that wider base just allows me to feel like I can pick up a little bit more momentum and move off the ball a little bit better. Once I've got all those positions in place, don't be afraid to pull the trigger, just try and commit. Give that ball a good hit. The driver's built to be smashed, give it a whack. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of video and you want to see more of them, let me know by hitting that thumbs up button down there. Don't be afraid to hit that to let me know what you think of the video. Also, don't be afraid to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the next free great golf video. Let me know if any of these points help in those comments down below as well.